The chief way to assess group differences is to compare typical categories of the independent variable, specifically the mean value of the dependent variable for each group. The mean is the arithmetic average, and you likely learned about it in the 3rd grade. Sum all the values and divide by the number of values. The grouping of cases by some independent variable like gender or political party helps us understand mean differences in some dependent variable. Women talk more than men, for example. But the use of mean values for time spent talking raises the question why we don't use another measure for a typical case. Central tendency, or how we assess a typical case, is an important topic with regard to quantitative research methods. In quantitative research, we must use numbers to describe and explain, sometimes predict. Descriptive statistics, for which central tendency measures are quite important, are the first step. Normal distributions of data locate the most common value, the mode, the middle value, the median, and the mean, the average, at the same point. Every time you introduce a variable in the method section of your reports, you give the mean along with the range of values and the average distance away from the mean, called standard deviation. The second step after descriptive statistics is inferential statistics, the ones that explain findings by helping us make decisions. Statistical tests themselves make assumptions about distributions of the sample being used. One of the assumptions is that the data are normally distributed, where the mean is the center. If data are skewed, then the median value, the middle value, is a better approximation. Even so, each statistical formula considers the mean. SPSS is used to obtain information for central tendency, although formulas in Excel work equally well. More complex statistics work better in SPSS, so ignoring Excel for now is a good idea. Let's take a look at SPSS. Here's a screen full of data labeled fear of speaking, experience speaking, education, age, and gender. The 40 after each variable name indicates that this was for student number 40 in one of my classes. Each variable has 30 cases. All of the variables are labeled with numbers. This is very important. If you collect data using words, you have to translate the words into numbers. To find the center of the distribution, we click on the Analyze button and choose Descriptive Statistics. The submenu gives us the choice Descriptives, and this brings up a selection. We can choose fear of speaking because it's a continuous variable. Experience is a continuous variable. Education is in between continuous and category. We're going to treat it for now as a continuous variable. And age is a ratio level variable, definitely a continuous variable. We're not going to look at gender right now because it's a category. If you click on the options box, SPSS is smart enough to know that you want the mean, because that's the assumption of most tests, the standard deviation, and you also need to know the minimum and maximum values to report the range of values. By clicking OK, SPSS gives you a table. The first column is the name of the variable. The second column is the number of values for that variable. The third and fourth columns report the minimum and maximum values so you can report the range. The next column is the mean, and the next column is the standard deviation. SPSS makes short work of this. Another way to analyze the data is to ask for frequencies. When you ask for frequencies, you can use the same variables. Only this time, you can ask for gender. The only way to report a typical gender case is to use frequency distributions. When I click on statistics, I'm going to ask for the mean and the median and the mode and the standard deviation and the minimum and maximum value. If you were doing a report, you would not need all of these values. When I click on OK, it's going to present several tables for each of the variables. I want to point out that the mean value for gender is 1.4. If there were equal numbers of men and women, and men are coded 1 and women are coded 2, then the average would be 1.5. So this tells you that there are more men, but it really is kind of a nonsensical value to report. So you would never report the mean, median for gender. The mode, yes, the value 1 tells you that males were the most common in that particular sample. The distribution table shows you all the different values for the different variables. The most important one for gender is the last table. It will report the percentage and the frequency for the two values labeled 1 and 2 at this point. In this case, I coded males as 1 and females as 2, but that was completely arbitrary. You could code them backwards and it would be the same. That completes this video. See you next time.